On January 27, 1990, an incident would shock the world. The old Empyrean president was assassinated. This event would later be known as the shot that shot the world. The old empire blamed Russia and China for orchestrating this assassination, yet modern reports show that most likely it was the Catalonian government who killed the old Empyrean president as revenge for the old empire, ensuring that the French ended their protection of Catalonia, and that Catalonia hoped that the assassination would start a world war, ensuring the old empire and their allies could not pose a threat to Catalonia. Although this isn't confirmed, it is believed to be the most likely scenario. In any case, the plan worked, and the old empire, Russia and China, put their militaries on each other's border in order to prepare for the inevitable. The Ukrainian radar crisis would start a war between the Cross-Axis and the Square Pact, and after a major nuclear assault on the Circle Treaty Organization, they would be brought into the war as well. The War of the Greats had begun. The war began with a swift Russian assault into the old empire and Romania. In the Baltic theater, Norway blitzed through Russian Sweden and into Germany. Yet our focus lies on the Siberian and Central Asian theaters. China and Xinjiang would blitz into Russia, trying to liberate the areas from Russian occupation. They would be very successful, as Russia expected China to only fight the old empire and not go to war with the Russians. China, in coordination with Tibet and Afghanistan, would launch Operation Demise, the nuking of a strip of land between the Caspian Sea and the Persian Gulf. This would successfully slow down the old empire in supplying their eastern front and would lead to major parts of it falling to the Circle Treaty Organization. Similarly, Kyrgyzstan would be overrun and all of their nukes captured. After this, Russia would launch a lot of nukes into Chinese territory. Yet many planes would be shot down before many nukes could be deployed, minimizing the damage. After this, Russia would be pushed back in all theaters as they were very overextended. Taking a detour to North America, Texas would very easily be overrun by both America and Mexico, whilst the two nations would sign a ceasefire between themselves, as they had no hatred for each other. China did not mind the Mexican decision, yet the old empire was furious at America for betraying them. Back in Afro-Eurasia, the old empire decided to retreat to the nuclear wall created by China. Together with the mountainous terrain, this would form an almost impenetrable shield, and the front would stay here for a long time. During this time, Russia invaded through Jutland, connecting with the North Sea. They would also capture Gotland in what would be a major naval victory for Russia. Russia reached the Aegean Sea, destroying a lot of the old empire's morale. Yet in the northern Caucasus, the Russians were pushed beyond their border. The old empire pulled forces out of the area to focus on the Balkans, allowing for Tibet to make landfall in Baku. The Green Team would see the heavy Chinese successes, and together with Attila would negotiate a switch of sides. The Circle Treaty Organization would accept, and the Green Team's forces would assist in landing in Azerbaijan. With Circle forces also pushing into the northern old empire, most of the region fell. In Iberia, Portugal barely had any chance. West Africa obliterated them with their nukes, destroying any nukes Portugal may have had. France and Catalonia also joined in against Portugal. In Greenland, Norway would still invade in search of oil. Yet China would immediately send their forces from Mexico to assist Greenland, convincing the government to fight on instead of surrendering like they did in our timeline. Guerrilla warfare would begin behind enemy lines, making any Greenlandic citizen a potential threat to Norway. As a result, major war crimes were committed against the Greenlandic population. And since this area of Greenland spoke Dutch, the Dutch felt very sympathetic to the Greenlandic cause. Russia, in a last-ditch attempt to save themselves, launched all of their nuclear weapons against their enemies. This would cause major damage, especially in the old empire, as many of their nukes were destroyed along with their infrastructure. The old Empyrean president and vice president would die in a nuclear blast, and because in such chaotic times an election is unholdable, the military took over many government duties. This would increasingly turn the old empire into an autocratic state. In Asia, both Korea and Vietnam would join the war against China. Korea would easily be pushed back, yet Vietnam made major gains. South China capitulated and China was forced to occupy some of their land. Siberia was asked to join the war to reclaim their old land from Korea, and Siberia accepted. This would relieve China and allow them to focus more on Russia and Vietnam. In the Balkans, Russia would cooperate with many Greek and Cretan resistance movements. This would successfully end Old Imperian presence in the Balkans, splitting Italy from the rest of the empire. It was here that Rome asked for a ceasefire. Russia was pushed out of the Jutland Peninsula, yet in the south they continued to push into Anatolia. And with the circular troops approaching the Old Imperian capital, the last nukes were launched, but to no avail. China and the Circle Treaty Organization captured the capital of the Old Empire. Soon after, Libya and Somalia joined the war against the Old Empire. The former vice president of the Old Empire, who was the other candidate in the post-assassination election, gathered support in the southern provinces where he was the most popular and successfully stormed the Senate of the Arab half of the Old Empire, declaring the independence of Arabia. In the Baltic theater, the Dutch Empire joined the war on China's side. They would storm into Germany and nuke Norway. Norway had already used their nukes on Russia and had no way to strike back against the Dutch. Sweden would rebel and align with the Dutch. The Chinese and Central Asians would also pick up speed against Russia, coming ever closer to their capital and pushing them back in Anatolia. Facing capitulation and internal unrest, Russia would surrender to the Allied nations. This would allow China to fully focus on Vietnam and Korea. Korea surrendered to Siberia and China, yet Vietnam fought until the bitter end. The ginormous Chinese population would be conscripted and sent to Vietnam. And eventually the Vietnamese government fell and China set up a new government, whom they soon made peace with. China had won the War of the Greats, and Victory Day was here. After the war, Korea had to cede a lot of their land to Siberia and China, whilst the rest was turned into a Chinese protectorate. Vietnam had to cede border territories to South China and got military restrictions. Kyrgyzstan was split up and the old Imperial Persian lands were partitioned. Arabia was restored as independent, Somaliland was given to Somalia, Sudan had to pay war reparations, and Libya gained a lot of land and puppets. The Caucasus and Ukraine got their independence back, and the same for Greece, Crete and Bulgaria. Italy was given to Rome. The rest of the old empire would be split into 5 occupation zones. Originally it was meant to be 4: West Africa, the Netherlands, China, and the Green Team would get occupation zones, but the Dutch gave some Egyptian land to France as the area used to be French. Russia had to give land to the Central Asians, Siberians, Chinese and Dutch, as well as release Poland and Danzig. Sweden and Gothenburg got their independence back and the Dutch annexed much of Norway. Norway also had to pay a lot of war reparations to Greenland for the war, whilst America and Mexico worked out a new border in Texas. Finally, Portugal got partitioned. Over time, many would ask, what was it all for? The old Imperians and Russians were basically replaced by the Dutch and Greens. Within time, the occupation zones became permanent borders, as an Iron Curtain descended across the world. The Dutch, fueled by revenge, seek to reform their lost empire. The Green Team with the trapezoid axis seeks to unite all of Afro-Eurasia under their iron fist. And then China leads the free world against tyranny. China may have won the war, but it did not win the battle. I want to thank you all for watching this video and also for over 100 subscribers. I am glad to have you all here and I am glad that you all are enjoying the content.